Hey, what's up? Moldover here, ready to take you on a deep dive into my newly remastered Light-Theremin CD album. In my last video, I gave a quick overview of what this album is. Now I'm going to share with you all the interesting details of this project, both old and new, and show you some fun ways to experiment with the Light-Theremin's sound-making abilities. I originally released this album back in 2009, and even back then it contained a ton of creative little features that you might miss without careful examination. One of the geekiest is the maze. In this new remastered version of the album, the beginning and end are clearly labeled, and the maze itself is found in the mostly decorative circuitry underneath the CD. There's only one complete solution to the maze, which is the artwork that appears on the CD itself. And that path actually carries power to the LED that sits in the center of the labyrinth in the center of the whole maze. It's not hard to notice some symbology traced out in the solution path, like the heart, the dollar sign, and the yin-yang, but you might not have noticed some of the subtler symbols like the Fibonacci spiral, the fractal, and the electrical symbol for a potentiometer. Look more closely at the maze on the circuit board, and you'll notice two holes at the beginning and end of each symbol. Each one is labeled with the track number and song name. These holes physically and electrically go through the circuit board to the backside, where each one connects with the written name of the song in the track list. This makes the maze three-dimensional in a simple but fun way. It includes the song name circuits on the backside as part of the LED powering circuit, and it connects each song to the symbol related to the theme of that song. Electrical engineering meets puzzling, meets album layout, meets symbology. I told you it was geeky, right? Incidentally, to write those song titles on the back, I created a very basic but totally custom font. My friend Colin Sebastian later built this out into a complete standard OpenType font called Moldover. OpenType fonts, which are the files on your computer ending in .otf, can be used in just about any application that lets you choose your own font. I'll put a link to download the Moldover font in the description for this video. Colin also made a beautiful motion font distributed by Animography, but I'm afraid that's no longer supported. However, you'll still see his motion font in many of the videos I created during that era. Speaking of things written on the circuit board, you might notice that after track number 10, You, Me, and Us, the maze's solution path goes through the title of the album, Moldover, and has some interesting numbers that start with 10. This is actually a pointer to an Easter egg hidden in the audio of track number 10, occurring after the end of song number 10 at this exact time. Open that sound file in a music or sound application, and you'll see I found a way to write my name in the stereo waveform across both left and right channels. There are good tools to freeform draw waveforms by hand, but to do this in a clean-looking and highly accurate way was actually really difficult and involves some detailed sound synthesis and processing. This Easter egg is best viewed at low frequencies, but it's best heard at high frequencies. So to help more people notice it on the album, I repeated the waveform many times while bending the frequency up and back down. On the topic of audio trickery, I decided to make the album exactly 50 minutes and 5 seconds long, or 5005 on a time readout, because, well, it was just under 50 minutes of music and I like palindromes. The first version of this circuit board is what I nowadays call the manufacturing version. It used teeny tiny little components that were easy to fit into a thin little CD case and were designed to be assembled by robots at a factory in large quantities. A few years later, I made another version I call the do-it-yourself, or DIY version. It uses large components that are easy for humans to assemble one at a time. I've since used the DIY version at build-your-own Light-Theremin CD workshops all around the world, teaching loads of people how to solder and making many incremental improvements to the circuit board over the years that make it easier for beginners to assemble. Now, this new update of the circuit board that comes with the remastered version of the album is what I call the combination version. It combines both manufacturing and do-it-yourself features into one, so I can use the same circuit boards both for manufacturing stacks of these things and for teaching DIY soldering workshops. So if you're wondering why there are indicators for components that don't appear on your copy of the album, this is why. Speaking of DIY, for my electronic savvy fans, this new circuit board now has hack points between many of the electrical connections. By breaking the circuit at one of these points and adding your own switch, potentiometer, or other sensor, it's easier than ever to hack your Light-Theremin and add new features. Want a volume knob? Want a tuning adjustment? Or a bypass switch for one of the light sensors? Hack them in there and discover new sound creation possibilities. At this point, it's definitely worth noting that I'm not the only artist to pursue the idea of playable packaging. At roughly the same time I originally released my album, Tristan Parrish released 1-Bit Symphony, which is a super lo-fi, self-contained music player with the music actually programmed in the code that lives on this microcontroller. Captain Credible is a Norwegian artist who builds all sorts of innovative instruments and has projects like Fantasy Mansion, which is both a novel musical instrument on an artful circuit board and an associated album you can download with the QR code. Fellow San Francisco Bay Area artist DJ Qbert released an album a few years ago on 12-inch vinyl called Extraterrestria that included a special insert. It has a network of touch sensors printed in conductive ink by Novalia that attach to an included microcontroller. That microcontroller can be paired with a mobile device using Bluetooth, and if you run Algorithm's DJ app, you can actually mix and scratch songs from the album using the printed artwork as a controller. Poke around on the interwebs and you'll find a few other artists' playable packaging examples, as well as artists who've taken the circuit board as artwork idea to crazy new heights. I've had my physical albums sold through different brick-and-mortar stores over the years, and a surprising new standout is the new Meow Wolf exhibit in Las Vegas called Omega Mart. I designed an instrument for the exhibit called the Music Mill, and if you head over to the Omega Mart gift shop, you'll find copies of Moldova Remastered for sale. The popularity and unique nature of the album in their gift shop inspired me to create a quick start guide for it, patterned after a similar guide I made for the playable packaging of my album 4-track. This new guide is included with every copy of the album. It helps explain the unique artifact that it is, and it has some handy tips and tricks to help people get more enjoyment out of it quickly. In my first video for this release, I mentioned a few other little small improvements which deserve attention here. There's a larger trigger button, which is more comfortable to play than the original, and can be easily clamped down to aid with sonic experimentation. The output volume of the remastered album is calibrated partway between a standard line level signal and a typical headphone amp volume, so you can connect it to just about anything and get good sonic results. I've added labels to the circuit board for the major components, so even without the quick start guide, many people can make sense of it right away. I added Redbook standard CD text to the remastered CD, meaning that if you have a CD player that supports the feature, you'll see the name of each song displayed on the device as it plays. In addition to including the music on the CD, the new QR code will take you to a free download and streaming page where you can listen to the album on your mobile device or computer. So that's everything I thought would be interesting to you on this deep dive into the playable packaging for Moldova Remastered. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll catch you next time. I'm not going to use that.